To inform, inspire, influence lives towards action. And this year we're starting our CSR focused on curbing unemployment in Nigeria. So if you are a company, please partner with us by allocating internship slots. And if you are a job seeker, keep watching Ways. Follow us on all our social media handle, as this will be an all year round engagement. So tell all your friends to keep their eyes on Ways. And in case you missed today's quote, it's a very short, very sharp, and very instructive quote. It says, growth is never by mere chance. It is the result of forces working together. So like she rightly said, all hands must be on deck. We'll see you live on Monday at 8 p.m. as we bring you another great conversation. Enjoy.
It for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Mrs. Ibukun Awashika is a Nigerian business mogul, author and motivational speaker. She was born in Ibadan, capital of Oyo State, and is the third of 7 children. She attended St. Paul's African Church Primary School and Methodist Girls High School, Yaba, and obtained a degree in chemistry from University of Ife. She is an alumni of the Chief Executive Program of Lagos Business School, the Global Executive MBA of IESE Business School, and Global CEO Program of Wharton. Ibukun worked as an audit trainee at Akintola Williams & Co. during her National Youth Service Corps. She moved on and became the founder and CEO of the Chair Place Group in 2004, a conglomerate which encompasses the Chair Center Limited, Sokwa Chair Center Limited, Furniture Manufacturers Mart Limited, and TCC Systems and Services Limited, specializing in the manufacturing, retail, and bankway security system services. Ibukun serves on a number of corporate and non-profit boards, which include Chairman of First Bank Nigeria Limited, Member of the Board of Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund, and former Chairperson Board of Trustees of Women in Management, Business and Public Service. She chairs the board of After School Graduate Development Center. She is a multiple award-winning entrepreneur and the first Nigerian recipient of the prestigious International Women's Entrepreneurial Challenge Award as a nominee of the United States Department of State in 2008. Ibukun is an author of The Girl Entrepreneur and Business His Way. In her leisure, she loves to watch investigative and legal series. She is married to Abiodun Awoshika and they are blessed with 3 sons. And this is The Mogul in 90 seconds.
A very good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us here on Plus TV Africa. We call this The Breakfast, and it's going to be 2 hours all the way till 9 a.m. this morning of big conversations to start up your week, kick you into the Monday, and let you know exactly what has been going on, in Nigeria in the past couple of hours. I am Osaogie Ogbowa. Good morning, Aneta.
Good morning, Osaogie Ogbowa. You just mentioned my name, Aneta Felix. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on The Breakfast. Good morning to you, wherever you're joining the show from. How was your weekend, Osaogie?
I had a pretty rough weekend. I had some good parts and then I had some bad parts. But it just, all came together to make the regular Nigerian weekend.
Any good news?
It was pretty. No.
No good news?
None, actually.
Right.
There was some bad news, but it's in the past. So,
Okay.
How was your weekend?
All right. Fine. If someone's broken your heart over the weekend, I had a Valentine. There are lots of girls you can rent now. It's all over social media. Rent me for Valentine's Day. Let's pepper your ex. We can definitely arrange something for you.
I saw something yesterday asking me, why can't women be the rich wives, and then they will pick, whoever they choose to marry. So,
right.
So yeah, there's
It's
too
just
much
a cultural
pressure.
thing.
There's too much pressure on for
guys.
example, on guys, to be the ones who give and be the ones who do whatever is necessary.
But you know where I
we need to
stand on
change.
that. I'm not a feminist, but I believe in giving. It doesn't matter your gender. So
That is you out of 7 billion people. Good morning anyway. Let's get straight into it. We're kicking off with, of course, looking through the major stories making the headlines this morning, as many of them as we can take. We'll be having our guest join us here in the studio to share his thoughts on them. And then moving on to what happened today in history, I'm going back to 1968 to tell you about a massacre.
yes, and also we're going to 1924 to tell you about the first lethal gas execution in the United States.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yes, it is.
So we'll be having these conversations a little later. One of the biggest conversations I've seen across Lagos and maybe across the country in the last 24, 48 hours is about the Lekki toll gate. Aside the ease at which people can now commute between Ikoyi and Victoria Island and Lekki Phase 1, there is also conversations about it being reopened and handed back to the LCC to fix and reopen it again. Lots of people do not agree. There's numerous sentiments as to why they don't agree and they don't want it back open. Some of people are talking about how much it's been how much easier it's been since it was closed for people to go to work and back. There's also those who believe that justice needs to come before we talk about reopening the toll gate.
Yes,
And
justice before profits, definitely.
Absolutely. And then there's those who say, well, businesses have been, or rather jobs have been lost, since it was closed, and so those who can get their jobs back. So we'll talk about it. The little details, about the members of the panel, about the reasons they voted for or against it. It will come up this morning.
Yes, we're also going to be talking about this big issue. If you're following trends on Twitter, you'd find that lots of Nigerians are angry at the federal government over their recent directive to banks, to stop basically trading, with people who are involved in cryptocurrency. And there's just been so much controversy about it because the people who are for it, the people who are against it. I mean, just over the weekend, I saw the government launch something and they were talking about the importance of digital economy. And I'm like, cryptocurrency is digital economy. Yeah. So where do you actually stand? Are we seeing double standards here? But we'll have two experts discuss this with us on The Breakfast this morning. And then we'll be revisiting something we discussed last week Friday. It was about female genital mutilation, but this time around, we'll be going into detail to share the personal experiences of a journalist and her investigations into the unhealthy practice of FGM.
And, just before we wrap up completely, we have Bookie November joining us to share about PLOS trending. So it feels like a good Monday already. It rained a little bit this morning.
Yes, showers of blessings.
Yes. So sit back, get yourself a cup of coffee and enjoy all these conversations this morning with Annetta Felix and her lovely jacket and myself.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment. There's another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the results of tomorrow's election. Okay, you have it already, Abi.
I am not hungry. If I need appointment, all I need to do is to start praising government.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Come and say. The moment we stop having charlatans occupy political offices, we will curtail hate speech.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
First point of accountability is asking questions.
Hello and welcome to PLOS Sports and PLOS TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoko.
Hi everyone, welcome to PLOS Training.
You cannot continue to recycle poverty while you're spending a lot of money on unproductive ventures.
The government has to feel the impact.
Honorable Commissioner, sir, welcome to the show.
we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
Yeah, welcome back to the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We hope you're having a great day today because we're about to go into an analysis of the daily newspapers. And good luck. We have Liberos Sharma, legal practitioner, here with us to help us make sense of the papers. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Let's kick off with the Punch newspaper. This one says, petrol price may hit 190 naira as oil nears $60. 17.03 billion liters of fuel consumed in 13 months, NNPC. Ekiti, Ondo, deploy Amotekun in forest, boundaries against herdsmen. Ondo task force combs forest for errant herdsmen. No killer herdsmen in Ekiti forest, and that's according to Fireme's aid. Cryptocurrencies breed illegal activities, raise risk, and that's according to the CBN. And below here on the front page of the Punch newspaper, it says, winners pastor jailed for stealing churches $90,000 and 4.5 million naira. Abga tackles Ngigi as minister calls Obiano idle governor. Again, bandits raid Kaduna communities, 19 killed, houses burnt. NMA attacks health workers' unions, says Juhesu Environs. Suspected herdsman slaughter farmer on Ogun farm. And pregnant cop, Ekiti sues IG, says police regulations violates constitution. And those are the top stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. Mr. Liberos Sharma.
Is there no forgiveness in the church? Is there no forgiveness in the church?
That's a topic for, 1 hour discussion. First thing, what caught my attention on the Punch newspaper this morning is the protest in Miramar over the coup. And then, if that happens in Nigeria today, will there be such protests? Our leaders should be asking themselves, will the people come out to say, no, we are protesting democracy. We should defend democracy with our blood. Will that happen?
Genuinely or sponsored?
No, genuinely. This because the dollar is low. When the price of petroleum product, crude oil price went down, we said because the price was low at the international market, and because of the exchange rate, we had to pay more. Now the price had gone up. Nigerians would still need to pay more because of the exchange rate. And then you ask, sometimes a few weeks back, we talked about NNPC spending money on 4 refineries that didn't produce a drop of oil. That's resources gone down the drain. And here we are now, because of the fluctuating price of oil and the international market, we also need to pay more. Ipman, Moman, and NNPC are already saying, Ipman and Moman on one side had said, look, the price community in Kaduna, and what do you call it? It's gradually men or kidnappers. 7 are Fulani. He identified that fact. And so, if the president wants to protect his tribe, if he loves them so much, so also recently, Kau Baraje also, gave an expose of what is leading to the crisis now. That these were people that they imported. if the president so desire to protect his tribe, the time to act is now. Then quickly, lastly, on the IGP. The IGP, if you look at the the Constitution, and you look at the Police Act from Section 7, subsection 3, that talks about who must be an IGP, a serving police officer, to Section 7, subsection 6, and there is a proviso in that subsection 6, in Section 18, subsection 8, that you must stay within 35 years or 60 years, as the case may be. Do you bring a man from retirement to come be the IG of police, contrary to all of the provisions of the Police Act and the Constitution? And then, lastly, what have you been waiting for that you now need 3 months extension to sit down and do the right thing? So these are the questions, really.
Let's move to the Nigerian Tribune and see what we can find. There's something in cryptocurrencies that we can see there that I hope that we'll start with. The CBN says cryptocurrency is illegal, used for money laundering and terrorism. Bandits kill 19, raise houses in 2 Kaduna local government areas. Earned allowance, federal government owing varsity workers over 150 billion naira. And also, NNPC recorded 13.4 billion naira trading surplus in November 2020. AU must be reformed to stay relevant, says President Muhammadu Buhari. And also, Fulani headsmen not responsible for school burning in Kogi State, says the governor. A few others, why we can't confront kidnappers, Edo police. Fenifere, Sokapu and others demand new constitution. 2 dead in Ilubu and Erin, Oshunland dispute crisis. We also see Zamfara APC resolves crisis, picks Yari as leader. APC chairman killed in Benue State. I'm rushing through because of time. So let's start with the cryptocurrency discussion that, of course, the CBN has made its stand known.
Yeah, while I agree that the CBN might have a point, but what they should also realize is, you don't just, what we do here, we just bring down the hammer heavily on any innovation and say, oh, this will create a crisis for us and it's used for illegal activities. I agree. Every innovation, including your naira and the dollar, if care is not taken, people can use it for money laundering. They can use it for the same thing that you are accusing those dealing on cryptocurrency of. But what you do is to ensure that you put structures in place, because it's an innovation that you can't just wish away. It has come to stay. It has come to stay. What you do is you put structures in place to ensure that you guard against, people who would want to use it for illegal activities. But when you do not even know what to do, that's why, for me, I think it is high time we begin to look for CBN governors that it's a bridge between the old and the young, between analog and digital. What you have now are still analog people, in digital environments. It will be difficult for them to understand this digital kind of trading.
Is it lack of understanding, or there might be something behind these decisions that we're not aware of?
No, for me, I think no matter what is behind, first, they are so much in a hurry to protect the banks that they also forget that there are opportunities behind this, that if the banks also takes time to understand, before you know it, they go into some of these businesses. But because they don't even want to understand at all, or they don't understand, or because of fear, because of their analog way of reasoning, they just believe any new innovation that is coming digitally is a threat to the analog, to the existence of the analog structure, and so it must be banned, without actually understanding it and how they can, what are the good side of it that you can actually take out. We don't do that here. And so the impression you get is that cryptocurrencies like MMM or like all these wonder banks, and so it should be, done away with. Right. That's not it. Government needs to truly, sit down, understand, take out the chaff, and then retain the good part of it, and reform it. Reform the operation in as far as your country is concerned.
And also gain from it. Let's move to
quickly.
Okay, go
ahead, there is a topic also I wanted to talk on the headlines there. Sorry, let me.
Is that the AU or the bandits
yes,
once again.
the AU, on the AU, the president saying that
the African Union must be reformed to
yes,
stay relevant.
The African Union must be reformed to stay relevant. I had consistently also said that, truly, if you look at in the last 1 year, as far as Africa is concerned and all of the issues, especially as regards the pandemic, what has been the position of the AU in as far as the pandemic is concerned? Nothing, apart from heads of AU heads of government meeting, and then they meet, they discuss and issue a communique, and it ends there. What has been the position or the step taken by the AU to ensure that Africa contributes to the development of a vaccine? Nothing. They are doing it individually. And coming from President Muhammadu Buhari, AU must reform to remain relevant. The first thing I expect him to do also is to go back to your country, reform your country also to be relevant in AU, and then champion the reformation.
All right. Charity begins at home then.
Exactly.
The Guardian, our last paper for today, says government needs 2 trillion naira to immunize over 200 million Nigerians. May spend 921.2 billion naira on 140 million people by 2022. Logistics 3 times cost of procuring vaccines, says PSN. Engage consultants, public health pharmacists to reduce cost. Why Nigerians will return PDP in 2023 by Wike. Ekiti sues IGP over dismissal of pregnant police women. Devolution of power, solution to Nigeria's problems, says Agbakuba. Bandits killed 19 persons in Kaduna. Niger Delta stakeholders forced relocation of DPR to Abuja. Mr. Liberos Oshoma, let me bring your attention to this first story here on Nigerian government needing about 2 trillion naira to immunize over 200 million Nigerians. I don't know if you saw that misinformation, so to speak, over the weekend with the news that Nigeria had been disqualified from receiving the vaccines, and the WHO coming out to say that's not true, that Nigeria, in fact, received the largest share of COVID-19 vaccines. How do you now tie that with this headline here saying Nigeria needs as much as 2 trillion naira for vaccines?
You see, everything that comes here, we must find a loophole around it because people must chop. That's the first thing. That's why no matter how good a proposal is, you take to government, the first thing is what is in it for me. And so it's the same thing with our health system, the same thing with the vaccine. If you ask them to break this down, now, how you arrive at this, you find that there are a lot of missing links. And then secondly, yeah, it is true that the logistics, storage, will be very expensive considering the climate that we are in. But since they've been talking about this vaccine and the storage, other countries have put structures in place to ensure that distribution, even last week we talked about, logistics. What have we done or what are we doing to ensure that distribution and storage, is not a problem so that you don't give people expired vaccines? What are we doing? Nothing. We'll always look at the monetary part of it. And then quickly, Molisa Bakuba talks about devaluation as the problem. That was why I said Buhari needs to come back home, restructure before you can now say, yes, we had similar problem. Nigeria is a microcosm of, the larger African macro. So we have, done this to remain relevant, and so we can push reformation agenda. And then, APC registration, continuous registration, with what, that
was on the Daily Independent, so we're running out of time.
Bandit killed 19 in Kaduna. Just last week, El-Rufai was talking about peaceful coexistence. And now, again, fresh attack in Kaduna. And then we had asked, what did you do? Why all of a sudden? Why are you so interested in this piece all of a sudden? But your statement before now were not. So it is not just about making statement. You also take actual step. This should force us now to back to that restructure and ensure that the governors are truly in charge of security in their states.
Absolutely. All right. Liberos Oshoma, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're still with us, so we're going to take a break from you and come back to you in a bit. to have other discussions here on The Breakfast this morning. Stay with us. Coming up next, we tell you what happened today in history on this day many, many years ago. Stay with us.
This Medan has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of guns,
whatever I have done.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
Welcome back to The Breakfast. As always, we go back in history every single day and tell you some things that happened on this day. And I'm starting with 1968. It's back to a conversation about racial segregation once again. We've spoken about this so many times, but it really just shows you that many, many incidents have happened in the past that basically just told a story of racial segregation in the U.S. and maybe also in other parts of the world. In 1968, we're looking at an incident that happened in something called the Orangeburg Massacre. It was about the American Civil Rights Movement at that time, an attack on black students from South Carolina State University who were protesting racial segregation at the town's only bowling alley. It was on the evening of February 8, 1968, about 200 protesters had previously demonstrated against racial segregation at a local bowling alley. 3 of the protesters at that time, African Americans, were killed and 28 others were injured. It, of course, happened, in the fall of 1967. That's where all the anger and the aggression started. Where some of the black leaders within the community tried to convince a guy called Harry K. Floyd, the owner of the bowling alley, to allow African Americans in. But he was unwilling to desegregate, and of course that's what led to the protest in the early of February 1968. A group of around 40 students from the university entered the bowling alley and left peacefully after they were asked to leave by the owner. The next night, more students, led by John Stroman, returned and entered the bowling alley, and this time there were police waiting for them. Several of them were arrested, and after the arrest, of course, it triggered more anger and more frustration. More, of course, people showed up. There were more protests. And of course, it continued to get even more violent and aggressive. A couple of students were sent to the hospital. Over the next couple of days, the tension escalated completely. Student protesters submitted a list of demands, very similar to the NSAS protest, that consisted of integration and the elimination of discrimination within the community. The governor at that time responded by calling the National Guard in on the protesters, and it went on and on and on. A bonfire started, just like here in Lekki Phase 1 during the NSAS protest. Eventually about 3 of these students were killed. Some of them were shot, in the back as they tried to run away. And it continued to just be a mess until things eventually settled down. So these were some of the things that happened basically in that era that forced desegregation of the United States. Same thing, in South Africa and other places. But unfortunately, some people had to lose their lives. Some people paid the ultimate sacrifice for, the desegregation in many, many of these cities across the world. And so it's respect to them. It's a great thing that we're sharing this story to them. We're hoping, really, that in decades from now, we still aren't telling stories of racial segregation and violence and riots and protest because of racism that happens in the current era that we are in. Hopefully in 2050, whoever's telling stories doesn't say, oh, sometime in 2021, there was, you know, a fight for racial segregation in many places. Maybe we'll be telling a totally different story.
Yeah, so sad what happened to those students in the US. And I just thank God that eventually, you know, there was a memorial for them erected in their honor. And just so unfortunate that many, many decades later, we also found incidents of this, with the latest being the protest, you know, against the killing of George Floyd.
And one thing, now you mentioned a memorial, I've also heard that as part of the arguments people have about the Lekki toll gate. People say that that place should never be reopened for business or be towed ever again, and it should be left as a memorial for those people who lost their lives on the 20th of October, 2020. And even in the build-up to the 20th of October, those videos that were all over the place of people getting shot here in Lagos and in other parts of the country. And also those who maybe also lost their lives, you know, in years leading up to 2020 when that protest happened. That's been, you know, the argument of a few.
It sounds like a very noble thing to do, but we need to understand that at the end of the day, it's a Lekki concession company. I'm very sure that for the fact that it's a business they run, they've maybe paid some amount to the government to be able to operate in that area. And I don't think that they would easily let go. In fact, there have been reports of how much millions of naira they've lost in the past, you know, since October when, you know, the protest occurred and the place was shut down. So I really, really doubt that that's going to happen for it to remain permanently shut. But we can only just watch and see, since there's even a stalemate right now with the Lagos panel hearing.
Also then makes you wonder, you know, how much of the voice of the people is relevant in conversations like this.
They might cite a memorial somewhere else, but at that Lekki toll gate, I doubt that that's going to be a possibility.
Well, let's see how it goes.
February 8th, 1924. What happened today in history was the first ever execution by lethal gas. So 2 guys were members of a Chinese gang. They killed somebody and they were convicted and sentenced to death. And at that time, people who were sentenced to death, you know, died by hanging. But they decided that death by hanging was very, you know, was just very brutal, and that they were going to come up with another way that was more humane to execute criminals. And that way discovered was the use of lethal gas, you know, to execute criminals. And a bill authorizing the use of lethal gas passed the Nevada State Legislature in 1921. And when this happened, it means that this guy who had killed someone else, his name was G, he was eligible to be executed by lethal gas, the first person to be executed by this method. At the end of the day, the California Cyanide Company of Los Angeles, California, they didn't want to release their gas to be used for this execution because it was used to eradicate pests at the time. And in fact, people were opposed to this. Even 3 guards at the prison, you know, actually resigned because they didn't want to be involved with the death of that prisoner by lethal gas. As I said, it was the first time ever this was going to be done. But at the end of the day, the officials, you know, they attempted to first pump, you know, this gas into his prison chamber, but at the end into his prison cell, but they eventually decided to create a makeshift gas chamber at the butcher shop of the prison. And they tested this gas on a cat, at least 1 cat. The cats died, and they said, okay, I think this can work on this murderer, so to speak. And eventually, you know, they set up this gas chamber. They put a small window for people to, you know, observe, witnesses to look inside. And he eventually wept, basically. We saw videos of him weeping on the chair until the guards told him to brace up. And at 9:40 a.m., February 8th, 1924, the pump sprayed 4 pounds of hydrocyanidic acid into the chamber. He appeared to lose consciousness in about 5 seconds, and his head continued to nod up and down for 6 minutes. And at the end of the day, at about 10 a.m., a vent was opened up, a fan was turned on to discharge the poison gas. And I remember the doctors, I don't remember because I wasn't there, I mean, from what I read, right? Yes. The doctors refused to do an autopsy for fear that when they opened the body, the gas might escape and, you know, affect other people. G was 29 years old when he was executed by lethal gas. But since then, you know, lethal gas was a method of carrying out capital punishment It was eventually replaced by lethal injection in the late 20th century. And I did some digging to see just how what the statistics are saying about death by lethal injection in the US. And even globally, what I'm seeing here is that from 1976 to February 2021, there have been 1,529 executions, out of which 1,349 were by lethal injection. We saw that 163 murderers were executed by electrocution. I mean, that's just terrible. Even though statistics say they die in about 2 to 3 seconds, they strap you onto the chair, you get electrocuted, and in just a short period of time, the person's out. And then 11 people died by gas inhalation, 3 by hanging, 3 by firing squad. But since 1999, the number of executions have, greatly been limited or decreased. And there were 17 executions in the US in the year 2020, and it was the lowest number of executions we've seen in the US since the year 1991.
It's interesting, and the way you've described it, I believe is some of the reasons there has been a conversation about ending the death penalty completely. And, you even have legal, issues, with the way a person is killed. Even if the person has been sentenced to death by either lethal injection or by hanging, or whichever one it is. Mm-hmm. There's also people who have argued that it is still an illegal way to, end the person's life, and so they want to completely kick away the death penalty. They, of course, have their own emotions and sentiments, towards that, but. In some places, it still is in existence. In other places, of course, it has been completely ruled out.
Yes.
Do you think that people should die because, they've committed crimes or not? And if you agree that they should die, how should they die? In what way can they go through the, smallest bit of suffering before they eventually die? So it's great conversations, and of course in the developing world, every now and then these things would always come up.
Indeed.
To give us a finer way of living and a finer way of also ending a person's life.
Yeah, and I saw that actually that it's more expensive for the state to execute a prisoner than to incarcerate him for life. I have no idea how that happens because, there are considerations of, these people wouldn't starve in prison, would they? There's considerations of, okay, there's just so many things to put in consideration, but the stats say it's more expensive for them to actually execute a prisoner than to keep him in jail for life.
All right. That's all we have for you, 1968 and 1924. All right, our 2 dates for Today in History, the 8th of February, many, many years ago. Stay with us. Next, we're having a discussion about the Lekki toll gate. What your thoughts are, really, about whether it should be reopened or not. Is that, has the panel basically done what it was set up to do in the first place? So we'll come back after this short break and talk about that.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
We can't talk about education reform if we don't decolonize our education system.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize. Because it's just cultural. And I think it's just human nature.
They stop paying us salary. I don't like remembering it.
I am angry at Nigeria. I'm angry at this government which seems to be letting us down. I'm angry at us as a people.
In the process of struggling to free myself from his hand, he tore my pants and he raped me.
Yes, I commit the offense truly.
Young girl, do you know where you are going? I say, I'm going to America. I say, oh, now so that they talk, you are going to Libya. Which America?
as it then do mark our place. Some people they die now.
This is Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
You're welcome back to The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We're now going straight into our first topical issue, and it's about the Lagos panel's scuffle over the reopening of the Lekki toll gate. Now, on Saturday, the members of the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry into alleged police brutality and to investigate the night of October 20th, 2020, the night of the alleged shooting, at peaceful protesters by soldiers. We saw that what happened there never happened at the panel before, where, basically the panel members split into what some people would like to call two separate factions, with Justice Doris Okuobi making a ruling about, the reopening of the Lekki toll gate. She had considered the application of the LCC team, and she said, let the Lekki toll gate be reopened. But the other faction of the panel was saying, no, the investigation into the forensic audits, into the forensic details have not been completed. But we saw a shouting match at that hearing. Let's now take a listen to a report I packaged. From calm and quiet, proceedings at the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry and restitution for victims of SARS-related abuses and other matters quickly turned into a shouting match on Saturday.
Your case is still in court. I'm taking your point. Your case is still in court. I am here on the bench. You are a biased person. I will serve you the copies.
This scuffle is because the chairperson of the panel, Justice Doris Okuobi, grants the Lekki Concession Company, LCC, permission to repossess the plaza.
Upon all said, I hereby make an order for LCC to repossess its toll gates, which have been under the control of the panel forthwith. Upon indication given that the forensic analysis of the said toll plaza has been concluded, the order made for repossession is for purpose of evaluation of the plaza by LCC Insurance, renovation and total control of the aforesaid plaza from today henceforth.
Justice Okuobi makes the pronouncement after taking arguments for and against the reopening of the facility in an application made by counsel to the LCC, Damola Seriki. The plaza has been under the control of the panel since it began sitting in October following the End SARS protest. After she announced her decision, her team rose to leave. They include Segun Awusoya, popularly known as Segalink, Director Citizens' Rights Oluwatoyin Odusoya, DIG, Taiwo Lakonu, representing the police, and Lucas Koyejo from the National Human Rights Commission. But as they walked out, the other absent members of the panel walked in. They include Ebunolu Adegburuwa, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Patience Udo, representing the civil society, Rinu Odoala, and Temitope Majekodumi, representing the End SARS protesters. They entered the hall to deliver a dissenting ruling.
To deliver a dissenting opinion, and that's why you saw that he came in late.
The panel will rise whilst the...
You recall that...
the panel will rise.
Please, just wait, gentlemen. You recall that we were here and we decided that this panel does not form a quorum if the youth representatives are not present. You recall that when we were inaugurated, the members of the youth representatives were not here.
Just as this team was speaking, LCC lawyer Rotimi Seriki and the Lagos State Council Enito Thomas interrupted them and a shouting match ensued.
Because of that, I'm sorry to interject. No, please don't. I'm delivering a ruling. Don't interject, please.
There's a reason for it.
No, please don't interject.
I think you should recuse yourself. You are taking LCC.
Don't interject,
on
please.
the issue of the toll plaza.
Gentlemen, I delivered the dissenting opinion. The opinion is already there.
I have both processes here.
Please.
Where you sued LCC
Learned counsel, that's okay. I take your argument. Now, the opinion.
Legal practitioners have reacted to this. They explained that the panel should have formed a quorum of 9 members and that a decision taken by some members of the panel in the absence of others do not hold much weight.
All of them deliver their ruling. If there are 3 judges, if they are not agreed, 2 will deliver, 1 will deliver. 2 will say this is the majority decision, and the minority are allowed to deliver their own ruling too. But it will appear that the chairman of the panel did not make provision for that. And this is the crux of the matter today.
The possession of the Lekki toll gate is key to the investigations of the events that occurred on the night of October 20th, 2020, being the scene of the alleged shooting of protesters by the Nigerian army. The dissenting panel insists that LCC cannot repossess the Lekki toll gate because a forensic audit of the evidence is yet to be completed. So as it stands, there are 2 decisions by 2 factions of the panel, which was set up to investigate allegations of police brutality and the night of the Lekki shootings, and thus a stalemate. Yes, and that was a look at the events on Saturday at the hearing of the Lagos Panel of Inquiry. We now have with us Liberta Sharma joining us to discuss this. Good morning, sir, and thanks again for being here.
Yeah, good morning.
Let's first talk about the legal angles to this. They were supposed to form a quorum, but they didn't, did they? And what are the legal implications of this?
Yeah, if there are 9 members, you now begin to look at what the quorum ought to be 2/3 of the 9 members, and what's 2/3 of 9? If they were not up to that quorum, then hearing that application, because if you remember, when the panel was constituted, the panel didn't sit because the youth representative refused to sit because of their lack of faith in the process. And the panel said they couldn't sit because they didn't form a quorum. And so, if now you're sitting and then you are hearing an application without a quorum, what is the implication of that sitting? Secondly, it is a notorious fact that occasions that would be so germane that each member would want to, pen down a ruling expressing their either endorsing or dissenting, either agreeing with the majority judgment or dissenting with the judgment. And so that must be allowed. And then I've always said this, that this panel might end up as a journey to nowhere. If you remember, the criticism that greeted the panel, one, that the governor is an interested party, he cannot appoint or nominate a panel that will investigate his action because accusing fingers have been pointed at him repeatedly. So not too long ago, the army, saying they were no longer going to appear before the panel and the heavens had not fallen. And the same panel had said initially, oh, well, there's an audit, a forensic audit report going on, and so we don't want the toll gate to be repossessed. And now you say, okay, without, the presence of that report before the panel, at least one would have expected that it is that report. It is not for you to say it has been concluded. It is that report that we allow the public to say, yes, investigations, the forensic investigation have been concluded. So now the panel will no longer need the report. What if in the process of, writing your reports, you now feel the need to go back to the toll gates to have access to it? And anyway, as we speak, a lot of things would have been tampered with because this is a toll gate that people access every day. So also quickly, to a council in the representing a party in the panel saying that a member of the panel is an interested party having sued Lagos State government on the issue of Lekki toll gate. was the Lagos State government not aware of the fact that they were sued by this party before he was nominated as a member to represent an interest in the panel? So these are the many questions. And so the only answer I can get is that this thing was, constituted to assuage the fears and feeling of certain persons. But that now that, the issue is gradually dying down, let us look for a way to throw spanner in the works. And so,
let's go back to your statement on the forensic audit. A lot of people have also argued that yes, that should be done. It should be completed. At what point, would it be said that a forensic audit has been completed? And is it even possible, from the way that things have played out, that a proper and complete forensic audit can still be carried out on that location?
You need to look at these issues from two points of view. The point of view of morals and sentiment, and the point of view of legality. It's a business premises for certain persons. You can't rule that out. The government, although there have been politics of, was it concession, the government buy it back, and some largesse or some politicians, that should take the back burner. It's a business premises. That should be put into consideration. That's why whatever the situation is, the way also, because also, mind you, people were alleged to have died in the process. And so, no matter how you want to look at it, government should be sensitive to all these issues. Business and then death, and which is the reason for the panel. And so, the only way you can conclusively assuage the mind and feeling of everybody to say, yes, we are done with the forensic audit, and this is it. So the moment there is a forensic audit, I no longer see why you still want to be in possession of that toll gate, because whatever you want it for had been concluded and report tendered. But when you say a report the conclusion, investigation had been concluded, but the report had not been tendered before you, you create a doubt in the mind of people that, why don't you just, why the hurry? Why don't you just, if you say the report will be next week, allow the report to be tendered, and then you can ask them to repossess, even without an application.
Okay, so now that it seems we have two separate decisions and a stalemate, is there a high authority that can mediate into this conflict?
It's a stalemate, actually. You have 5-4. So the 5 is a majority decision. 4 is a minority decision. So in a matter like, they have a reason, they know why they made it a panel of 9. There's always, and that's why if you go to the Court of Appeal, there's a panel of 3. You can never have a panel of 4, a panel of 3. At the Supreme Court, either a panel of 5 or 7. So there's always, a majority and minority. So there's a majority decision here and a minority decision. If the panel, the head of the panel, had allowed, a quorum, and then since they're already in majority, they probably were taking this application, written their ruling, and then since they're already in majority, they allowed the minority to also give a decision, and then, but we all know that the majority will take the day.
Exactly
but
what we're
the way
going to.
it has gone, it creates the impression that, there is a sinister move by, you hear the voice of Esau, but the hand of Jacob, that maybe Lagos State government is pulling the string behind this. That's the impression.
Okay, so just to clarify this
here.
issue, Mr. Oshoma, they basically gave their ruling. It was a majority of 5-4. They should have allowed the other party give their own dissenting opinion without the interruptions and the whole chaos we saw there. If you're saying right now that they have the majority decision, we have our team, basically Plus TV Africa, we're sending reporters on the field today to see if LCC would actually repossess the toll gate today. But really, are you then saying that LCC can now go ahead and repossess the toll gate?
Yes, LCC can go ahead to repossess the toll gate. The majority has given decision. And that's why I am saying that the impression you create for those people who protested and the people who lost loved ones is that you really don't care about them. And so that, you know, you didn't even allow the whole issues to be properly handled. And then you say, you know, go take back your toll gate and allow the insurance to evaluate and assess and, you know, all of those things. What the message you are passing is that you don't care. It would have been tidier if you had allowed, you know, the whole process to run seamlessly. You know, the panel would have gained mileage if they had allowed the process run seamlessly. It still would have ended in a judgment of majority of 5 against minority of 4, and allow the minority have their say, but the majority will have their way. But when you now make it look as if, no, the minority, you don't have a say here, and then even Seriki, who I respect so much, the senior colleague, and I had worked under him at some point, I didn't expect that shouting match. The majority had delivered a ruling. The minority wants to deliver a dissenting ruling. Allow them have their say. It is their right to have their say. And at the end of the day, you already have a majority ruling. You know, so all of this, you know, you don't allow your sentiment to take over the proceedings, and then, you know, it's as if, look, it's all about this toll gate. It's all about the money we want to make from this place. It's all about the investment.
How
but forgetting about the fact that we're talking about blood and life here. You know, so you need to find a way to balance it and not make it so obvious to the people. Now, with what had happened, a lot of people will also further lose confidence, you know, in the panel to get justice.
How important is the conversation of proof of that place being a crime scene or not? Proof of death, proof of killings, proof of, you know, in any way. How important is that in all of this?
There are allegations.
And for those
even before this same panel, medical doctors have come to testify just last week to say, we treated gunshot wounds. You know, one said, though they didn't extract the bullet because they didn't feel there was need to. And even testified to the fact that it was heady to leave those bullets if they won't cause any harm. But the fact that they treated gunshot wounds, whether somebody died or not, the government has even admitted that 2 people died. You know, so these are very important. So the essence of the panel, no matter whether they have jurisdiction or not, is to look into, it's an investigating panel, is to look into the activities that happen and then submit a report. That report, whether government will do anything with it, is another thing. And then one big thing, very germane, to win public confidence, to say, look, government gave opportunity to everybody to be heard on this issue, and government investigated and found out that some persons were culpable or some persons were not culpable. But when you now begin to play it in a way that there is more to it, yes, there might be interest. I look at it is a notorious fact also that a member of the panel, Ebodu Adeborua, right from, you know, the inception of that toll gate, had been a Lekki resident, had been at the forefront of those challenging, you know, the tolling of that road. I don't know if the matter is still in court now, judgment had been delivered. But all of this we already in the know before government appointed him to be a member of the panel, to look at the activities of what happened at a toll gate that he was challenging its existence.
I want to also bring in, since we're talking members of the panel now, the representative of the National Human Rights Commission, Lucas Koyejo, and his voting yes that it should be reopened or be handed back to the LCC. How much controversy does that bring?
For me, it doesn't, there's no controversy as to how he voted. My problem here is there are 2 major people here, forces. One is the chairman of the panel. The second is, you know, the senior advocate giving a dissenting judgment. These are 2 senior legal personnel, you know. So one would have expected that you allow the process run seamlessly.
Yes.
Every other member will either vote yes or no. And so, no matter how they vote, since you already have a panel of 5 saying, yes, it should be allowed, he has his reason. The National Human Rights Commission member has his reason for allowing it, to say, look, if we have, you know, the forensic auditor that we employed had concluded investigation and we have probably asked him behind, and he has said, look, I no longer have the need of going there. But even if he's telling you behind closed doors, these are the information that you're only privy to. Other members or the public are not privy to it. Worst case, bring that to your auditor before the panel in taking that application, and then let other counsel have opportunity of putting questions to him. Is there any need for you to go back to this place? Is your report concluded? And the man says, my report is concluded and by next week it should be ready. I do not have any need to go back. So now the information is, before the public. It's before the press, before, so there will be the dissenting judgment might just end in the realm of, speculation or sentiment. But when you do it this way, I always talk about information and transparency. Yes. When you are not transparent, you give room for, conjecture. And there is no limit to the ability of the mind to conject.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adebowale Sharma. It's been a very interesting discourse here on the Lagos panel of inquiry into alleged police brutality and the killings on the 9th of October 20th, 2020. So two things. First things first, expecting to see Lekki Toll Gate, if it will be open or not. As I said earlier, would bring you that report, go into that place to find out what the facts are on the ground. And also waiting for the report from the forensic audit team to see if basically whatever they've come up with at the end of the day.
It's also important, to know what next. If the forensic audit team eventually comes up and says, yes, there was a crime committed here, people actually did die here, people were shot here, what next? How does that also still affect, the opening of the toll gate?
You might go back,
once you're done with that, the information you need, you've collated all of that. All you need now is a report that is subject to prosecution or investigation.
Interesting. All right. Lekki residents also would have their own opinions here and there, and hopefully, it can be aired also. We would, of course, go on a short break. When we come back, we're talking into other things that are major conversations across the country this morning, and that mostly is about the Bitcoin cryptocurrency ban here in Nigeria. What does it mean for Nigerians, for business, for our economy, and why exactly has the CBN made that decision? We'll talk about that right next.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Welcome to your favorite program, The Moment of Truth, brought to you by the Citadel Global Community Church. Our God is a God of salvation, far above all principality and power, and might and dominion, that regardless of what happens in this season, you will escape. Say to your neighbor, there is no peace for the wicked. The special anti-robbery squad who are now killing innocent citizens instead of dealing with robbers. Your axe will catch up with you. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might.
Moment of Truth with Pastor Tunde Bakare. Sundays, 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
First point of accountability is asking questions.
Hello and welcome to Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoko.
Hi everyone, welcome to Plus Training.
You cannot continue to recycle poverty while you're spending a lot of money on unproductive ventures.
The government has to feel the impact.
Honorable Commissioner, sir, welcome to the show.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
Now 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
We can't talk about education reform if we don't decolonize our education system.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize. Because it's just cultural. And I think it's just human nature.
They stop paying us salary. I don't like remembering it.
I am angry at Nigeria. I'm angry at this government which seems to be letting us down. I am angry at us as a people.
In the process of struggling to free myself from his hand, he tore my pants and he raped me.
Yes, I commit offense truly.
Young girl, do you know where you are going? I say, I'm going to America. I say, now so that they talk, you are going to Libya. Which America?
As it then do mark our place, some people they die now.
This is Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Just what Oga wrote on our group.
And welcome back to The Breakfast here on Plus TV Africa. We, of course, are moving into our next conversation this morning. This time we're talking cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and the Central Bank of Nigeria. Of course, there are new laws, there are new regulations and decisions by the CBN to stop banks here in Nigeria from trading and allowing the trading of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. We've invited this morning Mukhtar Mohammed, a financial analyst, and also Bui Tudos, an advertising and marketing expert, to join us. Good morning to you both,
Good morning.
Mr. Mohammed and Mr. Tudos. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Always a pleasure being on the program.
Always. I'm going to start with our advertising and marketing.
Before joining you, good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, actually, maybe I should start with Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed. Some people have called this an attack on fintechs in Nigeria, and seeing where the world is going with new types of currency exchange, new innovations here and there. People here in Nigeria say this is an archaic behavior, and of course an attack on fintechs. Do you agree with that narrative?
Not at all. Not at all. We're just making noise out of nothing because what the CBN just said is not that he banned cryptocurrency trading in Nigeria. He said he banned his own financial institution, those that they are regulators, from transacting in anything that has to do with cryptocurrency. So, and let's be honest, this ban has been on since 2017. They just re-emphasized it to their or recently, last week, they just re-emphasized the ban. So it's not something new, and it's not stopping anything from fintech. We need to know that cryptocurrency is just part of the blockchain and technology, and fintech is almost also part of the blockchain technology. When you think of real-time exchange and real-time transactions, so it has nothing to do with trying to get ourselves other best world. The second largest economy in the world is China. China doesn't do any trade on that, and even Canada doesn't do that. Even in the United States, how much transaction do you have in Bitcoin? In terms of Bitcoin transaction, how many of those transactions do you have in Bitcoin? So we must not be so emotional because of the traders that are actually doing so much, making so much money in Bitcoin to the detriment of the economy of Nigeria. We must be sincere with ourselves. We must ask ourselves sincere questions. We must be patriotic enough to look at the economy holistically instead of looking at our own selfish desire that we want to gain. Look, it's a very volatile transaction. We are in an economy that is involved in infrastructures. So we have those challenges that comes with Bitcoin technology. It has nothing to do with fintech. If you look at the transaction that we've been doing through the fintech technology in terms of online transaction over the years, and even this last year, even during the lockdown, Nigeria has gone up almost 200 and something% in terms of that. So it has nothing to do with that. I think everything has to do with the volatility and the risks involved in cryptocurrency. And that is what the government is trying to guide investors. It's not saying that you cannot trade in cryptocurrency. I need to re-emphasize that. It's only saying they own financial institutions that are under the regulators, under them as regulators. They will not allow them to trade on that cryptocurrency asset. Basically, that's what the CBN will say.
Let's bring in Beatrice on this one. What are your reactions to what Mukta has said, and basically your reactions generally to the government's announcement on Friday?
Right. So Mukta has made a lot of great points that I agree with, because the CBN in itself is a regulator, and cryptocurrency is built on cryptography, which is not to regulate it. And they are definitely within their merit to stop institutions that they regulate from trading in these things. But what we need to understand is that cryptocurrencies are the future, in the sense that cryptography answers a lot of questions that money does answer. It's a store for value. You're able to exchange it for transactions, and you're able to hedge it against the naira. So what I have an issue with is that the overall strategy for the CBN is to make the naira as strong as possible against the dollar. But by taking out, last year, cryptocurrencies in Nigeria traded over $553 million, right? Now you're taking that out of the economy, you're taking that out of the power of the naira. This would eventually lead to, a devaluation of the naira, because the dollar will go stronger. Because just what the thing is, you have not banned cryptocurrency. What you've just done is ban the use of naira to buy cryptocurrency, which means that people will start looking for alternative means to get cryptocurrency. And usually what would happen is that they will use the dollar, as this alternative. And what happens then is that the dollar becomes scarce, the dollar becomes overvalued, and then the black market rate of dollar becomes higher. Now what's going to happen is that it's going for dollar dependent merchants who can now find dollars because they're not super expensive and scarce, they will circle back to cryptocurrencies. You even have cases where, Chinedu and Chibuzo in Alaba market are already buying things with Bitcoin. In fact, Chinese people Chinese exporters would prefer conversations in Bitcoin even more than dollars, right? So you're going to have, at the end of the day, create a circle that keeps devaluing the naira, because now people are looking for dollars to buy currency, and now because it's scarce, people are now buying cryptocurrency like stable coins, USDC, BUSPX, to now buy goods and exchange of goods. So it's literally it's just basically a conundrum. So I don't agree with the tactic. If your overall strategy is to strengthen the naira and then you're taking tactics that weakens it, that's where my issue is. So rather than ban, rather than hinder, why don't you sit down at the table with these cryptocurrency traders and decide on a framework for transparency, a framework for legalization, a framework that helps you monitor these transactions, if that's the issue. If there are so many exits, why are you closing yours? right? If your exit was the only exit, it would make sense to your end goal. But if the exit, why close the yours? Why not build fires and then tax it and put a certain levy on it?
All right,
I'm going to bring in Mokhtar, to also share on that. Do you think that maybe the CBN, could have found another way around this instead of, the policies and the ban that they have, currently placed, on the financial institutions here? Is there ways that they could have looked at the value that cryptocurrency trading does actually bring to our GDP and to Nigerians and to small businesses, across the country, and then, of course, created policies instead that would help protect investments here in Nigeria and that wouldn't scare away investors from Nigeria and, of course, still let the, the cryptocurrency market continue to thrive?
Well, I heard what my colleague just said, but when you look at what you're talking about, cryptocurrency adding to the GDP, we don't seem to see that happening, or we've not seen that we have the GDP of Nigeria being released by the NBS every quarter. We've not seen crypto add anything to our GDP. In terms of making crypto a means of exchange, you need to realize that crypto is like a behind the scene transaction. I, Mukhtar, can be transacting with Anita. Anita doesn't even know that Mukhtar. So it doesn't give a lot of credibility to cryptocurrency when it comes to trading with one or two people. Then when you look at the legality of it, you need to look at legality in terms of holistically. Crypto is a currency that doesn't want to be regulated. There's no fundamental, there's no value chain in terms of how you want to regulate cryptocurrency. So the CBN should not be the one now trying to see how they can regulate a sector whereby the CBN are battling with other frames to make financial inclusion. Cryptocurrency cannot help us in financial inclusion because when you look at the value in terms of the worth of one cryptocurrency to even a dollar, to place of a naira, so it doesn't help. Then look at what he was saying about using crypto as a means of aging the naira. Look, you might be shocked to know that CBN took this decision because they looked at it holistically and look at that. It could have been the reason why the naira is taking a lot of battle because you know that this cryptocurrency is not stored in naira, it's stored in dollars. And you're talking about Nigeria being the second largest traders in cryptocurrency, about $500 and something million. You can imagine $500 and something million in exchange for a naira. Now, what does the CBN do? If you close those accounts and the people decide that, look, we want to withdraw those accounts, then that means that they will have to change it from dollar to naira. So that in turn will have in circulation about $500 and something million trying to change to naira so that it could be of value to them. So definitely that could help also even bring down the exchange rate volatility that we are seeing. So CBN must have looked at all this. In terms of regulatory, no part of the world that they've been able to regulate cryptocurrency. No part of the world. So even in the most developed economy, they've not been able to come with a legal framework on how to regulate cryptocurrency because cryptocurrency is, like he said, it's a digital currency, it's in space. Now, we don't have only Bitcoin, we have other means of cryptocurrency. Which of them will you not take? Bitcoin just controls about 68% of the cryptocurrency in the world. So it's not just about it's not just about Bitcoin. So which of them will you not? The other 22% of those people that control Bitcoin, how do you get them? And you should know that more of this currency will keep coming. So the world itself cannot keep pace with cryptos because just before 2 weeks ago, crypto was selling for almost $40-something, about $40,000 for one coin, and all of a sudden within 2 weeks it has gone down to about $20,000. So you need to look at that volatility, and that's what the CBN is looking at. There's no regulatory. If you looked at a lot of things that have happened, even in terms of terrorism, in terms of fraud that recently involved some Nigerians, you realize they were trading in crypto. They were saying you cannot know the end user, you just do a transaction. That gives room for a lot of fraudulent activities. The regulators all over the world have not been able to control the flow of cryptocurrency. They've not been able to regulate cryptocurrency. And that is why it has not yet been globally accepted. Until you are open to regulation, then you begin to say, okay, now we can globally accept it. We know who is doing transaction with who. We know when a terrorist is doing transaction. We know when a genuine NGO is doing transaction. That is that backside of it that has not been covered. That is the challenge.
Mohammed. All right, even though, lots of, cryptocurrency traders would argue that basically the whole essence of cryptocurrency is the fact that it's based on the blockchain technology, which is that everything is protected, your identity is protected, and all of that. But let's bring in Mr. Biyutudos now for this next one. I'm trying to find out from you your perspective on what will now be the fate of cryptocurrency traders, because we see a report here saying Bitcoin ban traps 214.5 billion naira in banks. So what's the fate of cryptocurrency traders now whose accounts are going to be closed? Biyutudos, do we have you here?
So, yeah.
Please go ahead.
I'm right here. So what is the fate of these people that their accounts are going to be banned? Well, I think their fate is clear. Their accounts are going to be banned and they're going to have to lose money, or I don't know what legal framework is around that. I'm not necessarily familiar with that. But I think it's a bit backward for that to happen. If people are going to be losing their add-in money because they're trying to, for several reasons, buy cryptocurrencies, you know. So I was going to even just address what Mr. Mukta said about Bitcoin being so and so amount of dollars. Now, in the crypto world, there are coins called stable coins, right? There are coins that are pegged on the US dollar. There are coins that are pegged on Bitcoin itself, the USDT, the PX, and these are coins that have no volatility. Now, people that go into coins that have volatility understand the risk. And in general, life, there's high risk, there's high reward, and there is low risk, low reward. So it really depends on your appetite, right? For even in the world, currencies all over, you know, what we call fiat in the crypto world, currencies all over have different forms of volatility, right? So 2 years ago, the dollar was doing 363 naira. This year it's doing 485 naira. 5 years before, it was doing 185 naira. It's naira itself not volatile. I think this is a trend all over the world that is determined by market size, demand, and supply. Where demand and supply meets is always the price point, right? And if in the long term, cryptography answers the question of store of value. In the next 10 years, I can assure you that the graph will always be polygonal, which means that it will always go up rather than go down. Okay. If the government is the top 5 countries in the world are embracing cryptography. There's a reason why they are embracing cryptography. The whole idea of cryptocurrencies is DeFi, which is decentralized finance. Now, after the Second World War, the US was trying to determine the tone of money. A lot of meetings had to be had to balance money out, you know, to properly put things in place. And this is the question that cryptography is coming to answer, where everybody can trade globally with blockchain technology that is not based or regulated by one particular country, and the tone of economy is not determined by a certain country because of the power they have.
All right. I want you to also go on and share your thoughts on the argument about it being used to fund terrorism and the likes. Do you think that we have enough percentage, you know, of terrorism that has been, of course, funded through Bitcoin and crime that has been committed through Bitcoin? Do you think that we have enough of that to create enough fear for the CBN to make these laws?
So the truth is that any currency can be used to fund crime. We've heard of cases where naira was used to fund crime. We've heard of cases where dollar was used to fund crime. We've heard of cases where pound sterling is used. Any form of exchange, right, can be used to fund crime, can be used to fund terrorism.
Okay, let's bring in Mr. Mukta
So I don't
here.
think it's a unique thing to cryptocurrency.
All right.
Okay. Let's bring in Mr. Mukta here. Just over the weekend, the presidency released a statement talking about how it was going to push for digital economy, the digitization of the economy, you know, to move Nigeria forward, especially towards recovery from recession. But Bitcoin is the future of digital economy. So what are your thoughts on this seeming double standards?
Well, when you talk about Bitcoin being the future of digital economy, you're talking about in terms of currency trading. When you're talking about the digital economy, we're talking about a holistic economy, not just economy that has to do with just trading in currency alone. So we're talking about holistically looking at your economy, trying to digitize your economy. Bitcoin itself is just more or less part of the digital economy that we're talking about. So for me, I don't think that negates the fact what they are trying to do. When you look at the whole idea of the cryptocurrency transaction, what's the future of cryptocurrency? Is the currency of the future? We keep saying this all the while, and I like saying something about when we have a challenge, when we have the Swiss gold came hand in hand trying to battle with the normal gold, and at the end of the day, we don't have anything like Swiss gold, so it definitely will vanish away when you have trying to play with the major powers of the world. Now, let's look at cryptocurrency itself. How many of this cryptocurrency do we have in circulation? It's also 21 million. So that's why you see the higher the demand, the higher the price. So how we're talking about a nation, we're talking about different nations. We're talking about a crypto that is run based on like when you're doing trading on the platform of an exchange. That's what we're saying. When we talk about stock trading, we talk about when you trade, when the higher the demand, the lower the demand, maybe a lot of people are demanding for that stock at that particular time, the price goes up. When a lot of people are not demanding for that stock, the price goes down. You can't live your currency by that. You can't begin to determine your currency or by people that can edge it and say, look, we must edge it at a point. So cryptocurrency is a medium of exchange that has not been globally accepted, one. Then in terms of acceptance, it must be liquid. When we talk about liquidity, we are talking about if I have a card that is carrying cryptocurrency, I can go to China and be able to transact my business. As long as I cannot take that card to any part of the world and transact my business, it is not liquid. So once it's not liquid, it's not good for investment. Investment is all about liquidity. It's about when I want to exit an investment, I should have a right to exit my investment at any time I want to. Not that when I want to exit an investment, I have to wait for somebody else to come and help me to exit them. You say, oh, we are looking for buyers. Crypto is not liquid yet. So that is my basic point to investors that want to invest in crypto. It's all about like you're investing in the stock exchange. It's all about you're investing in a business that runs in cyberspace by people you don't know. We'll not look at the genesis of cryptocurrency. It was some certain boys, it started in Japan. Then some certain boys in America decided to have money for an NGO. And they realized that, oh, can we do this thing through digital? And that's why it came about, and people started buying into it.
All right, Mr. Mukhtar, we're running out of time.
Idea, but we're talking about regulation.
All right.
All right.
I want Tudors to quickly, in 30 seconds, speak on the fears that this might and these type of regulations can chase away investors from the country. Do you agree with that, or do you think that this would all fizzle out and we're fine? 30 seconds, please.
Can't stop people from doing things they want to do if you're not banning the entire process. Now, they'll look for other exits, they'll look for other means to buy this thing. So, I don't know what the end game is, but I don't see it doing exactly what they're trying to get to do.
All right. And final 30 seconds from Mukhtar Mohammed.
It will not stop investors from coming to Nigeria, I say, because we need to know how many crypto investors are really in Nigeria. Up to CBN released this thing, and Nigerian Bureau of Statistics are not giving us the number of people that are investing in cryptocurrency in Nigeria. That's why we keep saying that this is sharing a lot of secrecy. So we need to know how much they contribute to the GDP of Nigeria, how much they bring in terms of foreign direct investors or portfolio investment. That is when we begin to say it will have an effect. But as a standard, based on data we have and every available information we have, it doesn't have any impact on the foreign direct investment or portfolio investment in Nigeria.
All right. Mukhtar Mohammed, thank you very much for your thoughts and for sharing with us. And of course, to Mr. Tudors, Tudors, is it Buyi?
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Thank you, Biyu, I beg your pardon. Thank you also for stepping in and for sharing your thoughts also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
All right, we'll take a short break now, and moving away from cryptocurrency, we are going to be talking more on female genital mutilation, and we're looking at an in-depth story, a short documentary that was done, that shared the story of a few who have suffered from FGM. We'll be back after the short break.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. From the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Thanks for being here on The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We'll now be talking about female genital mutilation. Saturday, February 6th, 2021 was a day set aside to mark the advocacy against female genital mutilation and all the horrors and scars that it causes young girls all over the world, and especially here in Nigeria. And today, still talking about this and expanding on our discussion from Friday, we have a journalist, Melanie Ishola, to talk about this, based on her experiences and investigation, producing a documentary on this very important issue. So take a listen.
Till today, going to my late 40s, it's still a mystery to me. That I was actually circumcised. What is happening?
The journey to finding my voice began at Ibadan.
It's usually tug of war if we want to come together.
No, wọ́n fara mọ́ láti iye ọjọ́ yìí. Èmi ò fara mọ́ ṣe.
Crying out loud, why would I look forward to it? Something that at every point in time when it comes, I feel pain.
A
little into the conversation, the myths that surround the practice began to surface.
They remove the clitoris, they remove the labia, and then they try to sew it up.
You're welcome back. That was the trailer for the documentary Don't Cut Her. We now have joining us Melanie Ishola. Good morning. Are you there? Melanie Ishola, can you hear me? All right, I think we'll try to reconnect with our guests. Let's go on this very short break and we'll be right back.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the result of tomorrow's election. You have it already, have you?
I am not hungry. If I need appointment, all I need to do is to start praising government.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let anybody come and say. The moment we stop having charlatans occupy political offices, we will curtail hate speech.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
Welcome back. We now have Melanie Ishola for us. A journalist has done a documentary into female genital mutilation in Nigeria. Good morning, Melanie.
Good morning. Good to have you.
Thank you for being here. Tell us about your experience, with this very important issue and how it's motivated and inspired you to do a documentary on this issue.
Thank you. Thank you. I came across an NGO some 2 years ago while I was discharging my duties on radio, and it was Zero Tolerance Day Against Female Genital Mutilation 2019, and the women from the amount of money goes or exchange hands, for doing this great danger and harm to girls and women. So you begin to look at the psychological effects of all of this on children, on women, and how we suffer for it, sometimes daily in our living. And it's so horrific that I couldn't be silent about it. And right now, I take pride in saying an anti-FGM advocate, which proudly I make everybody understand everywhere I go that the clitoris is important, and not only the clitoris, that it is important, and that the woman has a fundamental human right, which is her sexual and reproductive health right.
All right, it truly is important. I want you to share on the trauma that girls have to deal with after finding out that they were mutilated, at a very young age. What does that trauma feel like, having to live, of course, for the rest of your life, knowing that that was done to you when you were a kid, and how it, of course, affects girls later on in life?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. In explaining this, I'd equally like to work with myths that are sold to people as to why we must mutilate the girl child. So now, the traumas are multifaceted. We have the short-term traumas and we have the long-term traumas. And some of these traumas are not even discovered early until later in life, when you would begin to do some activities as a woman. Now, the short-term traumas could range from excessive bleeding or hemorrhage to infections like HIV and AIDS, HPV, hepatitis, as the same tool used by one particular exciser is used on all of the girls that are being cut, and the occasion that the cutting is a sort of festival. In some communities, they do it as a sort of festival or a sort of celebration. Now, when you take that away, also in the short term, you have such effects like death, where the bleeding can just go beyond what's normal and the girl dies. Now, in the very long term, we have issues like complications during childbirth. And this is where, I find a bit funny. In the documentary, I asked market women in Okeo. Okeo is the capital of Ajala local government area of Oyo State. And this woman said to me, 4 myths. A woman that is not circumcised will become a prostitute. When they said it to me, they have said it in Yoruba, the Adi Odoko. And for me, that's quite important. That word used is important. Odoko is an old Yoruba for prostitute. The modern day, we would say Ashewu. So for me, it must mean that Odoko had always been mutilation or not. The other one was the clitoris must not. It was a taboo for the clitoris to touch the head of the baby during childbirth. That's number 2. Number 3, they said that it was also a taboo for the clitoris to compete with the penis during sexual intercourse. That's number 3. And number 4, if I'm remembering correctly now, what was that said again? I think I can't lay my hands on that. But for them, this was the body of knowledge that they have built the practice around, and this had made it impossible for them, all right, to stop mutilating. And they would say to you that it is a woman that is unmutilated that would deliver by cesarean section. Okay. How do you begin to tell them?
Yes, Melanie, we're running out of time, so I just want you to quickly address how we all can, take part in raising awareness against female genital mutilation in just about a minute, please.
All right, thank you very much. So to do that, I found that it's impossible for people to talk about or come against or stand against what they do not understand. So first, I would admonish everyone to seek understanding where female genital mutilation is concerned. And going back by what the documentary, Don't Cut Her, it's a great start for you to learn what you need to know about female genital mutilation. And that way, we need to understand that the WHO has said that female genital mutilation has no health benefit to the woman. I think that's instructive enough to get everyone interested in lending a voice to ending female genital mutilation.
Thank you.
We hope that the message from the WHO and from other bodies will get to the very rural areas in our society. The conversation needs to continue to expand and continue to go all around. The need for more education, the need for better primary healthcare facilities. Also, some of all these things and all these details need to come into play to eventually end female genital mutilation in our world. Melanie, thank you for your work. Thank you for your documentary, and we hope that we can continue to speak on this and bring you back again.
Yes, and thank you for your courage. Well done. All right, we might have lost her there, but yes, we're moving on now to Plus Trending, where our in-house social media manager, Bookie November, will be coming in to discuss what's trending in the world around us. Do stay with us.
Today's top stories are
and the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria. I'm here at Yunus Bashorin Street, where the
fire destroyed our transformer completely.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Welcome to your favorite program, The Moment of Truth, brought to you by the Citadel Global Community Church. Our God is a God of salvation, far above all principality and power, and might and dominion, that regardless of what happens in this season, you will escape. Say to your neighbor, there is no peace for the wicked. The special anti-robbery squad who are now killing innocent citizens instead of dealing with robbers. Your axe will catch up with you. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might.
Moment of Truth with Pastor Tunde Bakare. Sundays, 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Welcome back to The Breakfast. And now for our final conversation this morning, we have Bookie November joining us to share with us on bits of Plus Trending. What are the major conversations that have happened in the last 24 to 48 hours on social media? Most of them all around cryptocurrency and its ban in Nigeria. Good morning, Bookie November.
Good morning, Bookie.
Looking really good this morning.
As always.
Thank you.
Good morning to you. Let's get straight into it.
Exactly. So let's go straight to the comments. So from what I saw on social media, people are saying the same thing they said during the Okada ban, Amara ban. regulate, not ban, basically. So this tweet says, one does not need to hold a powerful public office to introduce powerful ideas into the public debate. Something needs to be done fast about the direction Nigeria is heading to, or rather falling into. The crypto ban is just a small link in a very long chain. So you see, this is just one of the many things people expect to happen. In fact, people are anticipating that they'll ban social media in Nigeria. Like the social media bill is actually going to scale through. You know, that's because it feels like anybody can do anything. Maybe not anybody. It feels like the government can actually just come up with these things and then enforce them, and there's nothing you can do about it. The next comment, also from Twitter, he says, instead of banning crypto, CBN should lead the way and encourage banks to accept crypto and hold wallets for customers. Q, Singapore banks. Encourage development of crypto assets and talent. Lead the revolution or be swept aside by it. This brings us back to the comment I saw some time ago on social media. It says, Nigeria, we don't invent things. We follow the trend, right? But then when it feels like this trend is getting bigger than us, we try to hide. We try to sweep it under the carpet or get it out. If you can't control something, if you can't control something, or if you don't have control over something, you see it as a threat, as opposed to learning how to understanding it and learning how to make it yours and use it for your own development. So next comment. This is also from Twitter. It says, this is a clear indication of policy somersault and lack of futuristic planning. The policy is both restrictive and a clear response to fear of innovation ideology that is universally accepted. My fear is Nigeria might be left behind in a global economic advancement. Simple. That's what I just said now.
Well, left behind, we've been left behind in a lot of things. So, this shouldn't be new. But, from our conversations with Mokhtar Mohammed, one of the things that we should have mentioned is, I think the Central Bank of Nigeria also has issues with communicating, with Nigerians on the reasons that they make these moves. So when you, create a new policy or you take certain steps, it's great that there is some level of communication.
No, they actually did. The CBN governor actually released a statement saying they received a warning from the FBI saying it was used to sponsor terrorism, it was used to pay, that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are now being used or demanded by kidnappers, as a source of ransom, basically.
Yeah, but the same way the Naira has been, same way the dollar has been.
True, anyway, true. But those are the reasons they gave.
Yeah, but if you look through the views that people have, it's not very often that you see, a person that says, oh yeah, I agree with the CBN, it should be banned, or it should, these steps are right. A lot of people don't agree, and it's not because they are dumb. It's because they have completely different ideas on how these things could be done. And so if the CBN wants to convince Nigerians that these are great ideas and it's safer for us to do this, then they should have better communication, better comms methods that they can communicate with Nigerians.
I agree. And I've been reading up about this whole cryptocurrency situation, just like what you said, regulate, not ban. I've seen articles, listing ways the government can actually regulate cryptocurrencies without killing it. I have no idea why the government did not seek this alternative rather than outrightly saying,
it just goes back to what I said. If they can't control something, they straight up ban it. But I don't see us progressing as a country if you keep banning things that you ban it in Nigeria, but it's not banned globally. People outside Nigeria, and it now feels like people outside Nigeria or youths outside Nigeria are advancing faster than those in Nigeria, and it's actually very sad.
And what I think also is that the ban on cryptocurrencies in Nigeria, what it's also going to do is that it will just open up more holes for fraud and what we'll call shortcuts or kona in, the pidgin parlance.
I saw comments like that on social media that said, ban it. In fact, there was this one, I couldn't put it on
about
TV.
The Ghana?
The one that had the gate.
Okay.
And then it had like grasses on the side. And then so they put a small gate and said ban cryptocurrency. But there are other roads on the side, like you can't pass wherever it is you want to.
People are now even advocating, going as far as saying, if they're saying they're closing bank accounts that trade in cryptocurrencies, they're going to go as far as opening bank accounts in Ghana and do their transactions through there. So the Nigerian youth are resilient. We will find ways to, to beat the system. So the government just needs to do what it can to integrate everybody, regulate it.
Thank you very much. Integrate and regulate, because you ban it. If the entire world, the universe hasn't banned cryptocurrency.
It's just never. So banning has just never been successful in Nigeria with rice, with chicken, with whatever it is that we've decided. We shut down our borders for more than a year. Wasn't in any way successful.
Smuggling
because
was
people
thriving.
found a way around
Exactly.
it, and so
people were cashing out on
True.
this.
absolutely, and so it has never worked. In the last few years, we've continued to use the same process. Big hammer to kill a small ant, and eventually, it still never works. You eventually hit your big toe and miss, out on the whole idea. And so, if they decide that this is the steps, these are the steps that they want to take. Okay, fine. But have a better way of communicating to Nigerians the reasons why you're doing so. And maybe say, okay, in a year, when we have better understanding of how these works, when we have better policies that can control it and protect your money and protect financial flows in Nigeria, when we can now, of course, address the issue of terrorism funding in Nigeria and fraud, then, we can, open those doors again. But when you just wake up, some morning and say, man, well, this, has been on since 2017 once again. But when you take steps like this, it's harder for Nigerians to accept without a proper explanation, that shows that, yes, you actually care about their money, and you care about their businesses, and you don't want to kill their businesses, but you have to take these steps.
For their own
Thank you. Just reminds me of what Liberosa Shoma, our guest earlier on the program, says, that the government needs to understand this before they can even take any step regards banning or regulating it.
Exactly.
That's where we draw the curtains today. Thank you very much, Speaking November, for being here, as always, every Monday. Thank you to Osarege for being my very handsome host,
Don't
as
have
always.
a choice. Have to stay employed and get paid at the end of the month. Anyway.
Aren't you going to say thanks to my beautiful
Thanks,
host?
for, of course,
Thank
kicking off
you.
this Monday with me. This is all we have for you today. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Remember, you can catch up on any parts of these conversations that you missed out on social media. It is at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Same with our YouTube channel. And one question I would ask again, for a pastor who has been jailed or arrested for stealing $90,000 in a church, is there any forgiveness in the church?
Where's the forgiveness?
Exactly. We'll be back tomorrow.
A lot of the jobs that exist today will not exist in the next 10 years.
10 years.
When I see people today shouting, we're not too young to run, we are ready to run. Ready to run to where?
The people of excellence are, to a certain extent, being held ransom by idiots and bandits.
Once you are in government, you believe everything you do is right. And once you are in opposition, everything the government does is wrong.
And so it's time for us to take over power.
Seize it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Thanks for joining us on Plus News Updates. I am Annetta Felix. A farmer, Dele Olowoni, has been slaughtered while asleep in a farm settlement at Oha Village, Imeko, in Imekwafo local government area of Ogun State. Olowoni was said to have been found dead by his wife with machete cuts in his neck and other parts of his body on Sunday. It was reported that some Fulani herdsmen stormed the village in the night with guns and cutlass and killed Olowoni in the farm. After killing him, they left for Iwoye Ketu. The police public relations officer in the state, DSP Abimbola Oyeyemi, confirmed the incident, adding that there was no evidence that the man was killed by Fulani herdsmen. He explains that the place is a farm settlement. There is only one building where the man lived with his wife. The PPRO, however, said the family did not allow the police to keep the body for an autopsy. The Governor Dapo Abiodun-led government in Ogun State has ordered the arrest of operatives of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW. A statement issued by the Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Abdulwahid Odusile, said that security agencies have been directed to arrest and prosecute any operative of the NURTW. The state government had gathered intelligence reports from security agencies that the NURTW is planning to resume collection of dues and revenues on its behalf at motor parks and garages at the state. Odusile said this was against a decision of the government banning the activities of the NURTW in the state. Worried by the spate of the farmers-herders crisis and the unrest in some states of the southwest geopolitical zone, officers of Peace Corps of Nigeria have launched a special visitation campaign to stakeholders on the use of dialogue. Officers of Peace Corps in Ogun State Command, led by the Deputy National Commandant of the Corps in charge of general duties and intelligence, Michael Oyemike, took the campaign to the palace of the Seriki Hausa in Egbaland and the vice chairman of the Hausa Fulani community in Ogun State. The Deputy National Commandant assured the Hausa Fulani community of better relationship, noting that the Corps is in touch with other major stakeholders in the southwest and beyond. He also urged the Hausa Fulani community to continue to educate their people about the presence of the second wave of COVID-19 in Nigeria.
We need to preach the importance of dialogue. Yes, we can't avoid crisis in total, but if we make attempt to put dialogue first, you'll see that we'll be able to save some of the resources we use for after war preparing. So the most enlightening thing, what we are preaching now is the essence of peace dialogue, so that we use dialogue in achieving that thing that we cannot achieve through violence.
Most of these crises are carried out by youth. And at the end of the day, it is the same youth that suffers the consequence. Now, for us to reduce this, or to put a stop or check to this, we felt we should at least enlighten the leaders more.
What's happening, these crises that happen within Fulani community and Yoruba community, that is why these people are come to visit me, so that we sit down and dialogue and see the end of the crisis. Because we don't want to whereby this crisis will escalate in this country.
Southwest states, including Ekiti, Ondo, and Osun, on Sunday said they had deployed Western Nigeria Security Network, Amotekun Corps, in their forests and boundaries to check killer herdsmen. The states, however, differed on the presence of killer herdsmen in the forests of the region. While the Ekiti state government said there were no killer herdsmen in the state forest, Ondo and Osun states explained their efforts to rid their forest of herdsmen. But all the states said they had deployed Amotekun Corps to their forests and boundaries with other states to check infiltration of killer herdsmen. Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, SAN, had on January 18 issued a 7-day ultimatum to herdsmen to vacate the state's forest reserves. Although Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN, initially opposed the order at its meeting its leaders had with Nigeria Governors Forum and Akeredolu, the cattle breeders accepted the Ondo State government's directive. Besides the order that the herdsmen should vacate forest reserves, Akeredolu also banned movement of cattle along the highways and within the cities, night grazing and underage grazing. Other states in the southwest have adopted the policy of Akeredolu, who's the chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum. Benue State's Governor Samuel Ortom has accused a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress APC, Garos Gololo, of sponsoring false and malicious claims about him because he turned down his request to be made special advisor. Ortom, in a statement issued by his chief press secretary, said Gololo accused Governor Samuel Ortom of sponsoring militia to kill Fulani people in Benue State. Reacting to this, the governor said Gololo launched a ceaseless campaign of calumny and blackmail against him because he turned down his request. Ortom further called on security agents to arrest and prosecute Gololo and all law-abiding Fulanese living in peace with all other Benue people. Still on the herders, farmers clashes, Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka has warned that the conflict between the Fulani herdsmen and farmers in different states of the Federation can degenerate into civil war if the federal government fails to properly handle it. Professor Soyinka, a poet and playwright, tasked President Muhammadu Buhari to address the nation and dissociate himself from the activities of those who run their businesses by displacing, killing, raping, and torture, and by occupying lands that do not belong to them. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, says the resort by leaders of the All Progressives Congress to harass and threaten Nigerians, particularly political terrorism, symptomatic of a dying party gasping for breath. The provost of Yewa College of Education, Abeokuta, Professor David Bangoshe, has advised the federal government to look at granting inmates pardon or state clemency having undergone corrections, reformation, and academic discipline within the confines of corrections service. Professor Bangoshe said this at the matriculation and graduation ceremony of inmates at the Nigerian Correctional Service Maximum Security Custodial Center, Ibara, Abeokuta, Ogun State. Bangoshe noted that education is key towards reformation. He noted that the need for a better society and people informed the college of extending the gesture to the correctional service.
You cannot reform people without education. Education is a major driver, it's a major force in reforming the society, in reforming the people. So we are saying that we're putting in on record that the people that are graduating today have been reformed, have been corrected. If that is the purpose of our system, of our prison system now, we are calling for the government to look at them, grant some of them that are deserving pardon or state clemency.
On his part, the Deputy Controller of Corrections Maximum Security Custodial Center, Ibara, Abeokuta, DCC Shuaib Ayodeji, said the graduation ceremony is a plus to the society as inmates upon their release are reformed and are exposed to contribute positively to society.
We are living testimony to that. Someone who came in as not having even a school start certificate and going out to have NCE as an holder of NCE certificate. He's sure of having at worst going to any private school and begin to teach and make a living from that. Different from what it used to be before now. Aside that, those who cannot go into Western education goes into vocational education too, and they learn one or two trades. And individuals, individuals are still coming to their aid, giving them the tools to operate on their own.
We have National Open University here in the Correctional Center, where our inmates have the opportunity to study at university level. We have 50 students that are undergoing different degree program, both first degree and second degree. And we also have NCE class. We have the pre and post literacy class. We have the computer class. We also have NAPTEP center here. We call it the Bara Modular Center. Also, we all have the NECO private examination center, NECO external, here in this correctional center. And we have trained our inmates on how to produce Adire Kampala.
The Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, has urged the federal government to see to the payment of retirement benefits and pension of its retired members regularly. The SANU FUNAB chairman Olurotimi Fasonwo made this known in a chat with newsmen at the send-forth ceremony for retired staff in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. Fasonwo noted that the improved welfare of SANU members cannot be overemphasized, and as such, government must do well for its members, particularly the retirees.
Reasons why SANU is embarking on strike midnight today has to do with the welfare of these pensioners. Government has not done well enough for the retirees. And so we believe that the fact that they have left the system is not enough for the government to believe that they have nobody or no organization to fight their cause. And so it is one of the reasons why SANU is embarking on strike.
The SANU chairman, while congratulating the retirees, said there is no reason why the federal government should not come to terms with the agreement reached, noting that the rights of university non-teaching staff are human rights. On his part, the Vice-Chancellor, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Professor Felix Salako, represented by the DVC Development, Professor Clement Adeofun, assured members of the union of unalloyed support at all times.
As far as I'm concerned, they have no reason to have delayed up to this moment. The federal government, through its representatives, would always call meetings, sign memorandum of understanding, and give us, they will even give timelines. But deliberately, they just decide not to implement these things.
This administration will not take anybody for granted. I will ensure that whatever that is due to everybody will be given to him or her.
The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has recorded 506 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the total number of infections in the country to 139,748. The NCDC also recorded 20 COVID-19 deaths, raising the total fatality in the country to 1,667. Latest discharges include 360 community recoveries in Lagos, 138 in Osun, 121 in Plateau, 89 in Imo State, and 38 in Kano, managed in line with guidelines. South Africa has put its rollout of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine on hold after a study showed disappointing results against its new COVID-19 variant. Scientists say the strain accounts for 90% of new COVID-19 cases in South Africa. The study, involving around 2,000 people, found the vaccine offered minimal protection against mild and moderate cases of COVID-19. South Africa has received 1 million doses of the AstraZeneca jab and was due to start vaccinating people next week. Speaking at an online news conference on Sunday, South African Health Minister Zweli Mkhize said the government would wait for further advice on how to best proceed with the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine in light of the findings.
So it's a temporary issue that we have to hold on to AstraZeneca. It is temporary until we figure out these issues. What are the next steps supposed to be? When we know those steps, then of course we bring it back.
Scientists say early trials suggest that Oxford AstraZeneca's vaccine offers minimal protection against the mild disease from the South Africa variant. A new study, not yet peer-reviewed, involved about 2,000 people who were on average 31. But Professor Sarah Gilbert, Oxford vaccine developer, said vaccines should still protect against severe disease. She said developers were likely to have a modified Oxford jab by the autumn to combat the South African variants.
British drug maker AstraZeneca said on Saturday its vaccine, developed with Oxford University, appeared to offer only limited protection against mild disease caused by the South African variant of COVID-19. That's based on early data from a trial. The study from South Africa's University of the Witwatersrand and Oxford University showed the vaccine has significantly reduced efficacy against the variant, according to a Financial Times report. The so-called British, South African and Brazilian coronavirus variants are among those currently most concerning for scientists and health experts. These appear to spread more swiftly than others. The newspaper said that none of the trial participants, of which there were over 2,000, had been hospitalized or died. However, AstraZeneca said it's not been able to properly ascertain the vaccine's effect against severe disease and hospitalization, given that the subjects were predominantly young, healthy adults. The company said it believed its vaccine could protect against severe disease, given that the neutralizing antibody activity was equivalent to that of other COVID-19 vaccines that have demonstrated protection. While thousands of individual changes have arisen as the virus mutates into new variants, only a tiny minority are likely to be important or change the virus in a significant way, according to the British Medical Journal.
In other parts of Africa, Benin presidential candidate was wounded after shots were fired at his car soon after he filed his papers for the April presidential election. Ganiu Soglo, a former minister and son of ex-president Nisifo Soglo, was wounded on Friday on his way to his farm in Zinvi, 35 kilometers from the West African country's commercial capital, Cotonou. He was one of 19 politicians who have filed papers for the April 11 ballot, including the incumbent Patrice Talon. Soglo was treated at a hospital in Cotonou. In a communique, he said he was focused on his recovery and medical treatment after surviving a viral attack, without giving details. Many Benin opposition figures are either in exile or are barred from running in the election. That has prompted criticism that the former French colony, once seen as a model of democracy, has veered into authoritarianism under Talon. Police have opened an investigation, but are yet to reissue a statement. The president of Haiti says an attempt to kill him and overthrow the government has been foiled amid a dispute over when his term ends. At least 23 people were arrested, including a top judge and a senior police officer. President Jovenel Moïse insists his term in office ends in February 2022. But opponents say it finished on Sunday. Protesters took to the streets of the capital, Port-au-Prince, and other towns over his refusal to step down. There were clashes with police, who responded with tear gas. Security officials said there had been an attempted coup d'etat and cash and weapons, including assault rifles, machine guns and machetes, were seized as the arrests were made. Haiti's political crisis comes down to two different interpretations of the constitution and the length of the president's current term. Opponents of President Morsi say it ends now after a volatile period in office following a disputed vote in 2016. At least 7 people have died and up to 170 others were missing in India's northern Chamoli district after a Himalayan glacier broke and swept away a dam. Hundreds of military personnel have been deployed in the Indian Himalayas to find the missing after a part of a glacier broke away and damaged the hydroelectric dam, setting off a torrent of water, rock and dust down a mountain valley. Most of the missing people were working on the 2 projects, one of the many the government has been building deep in the mountains of Uttarakhand state as part of a development push. Chamoli is around 500 kilometers north of New Delhi. It's prone to flash floods and landslides, and the disaster has prompted calls by environmental groups for a review of power projects in the ecologically sensitive mountains. And in business, the Central Bank of Nigeria has said cryptocurrencies promote illegal activities and raise risk, among other reasons. In a statement on Sunday, in reaction to comments following its recent reminder to deposit money banks to desist from transacting in and with entities dealing in cryptocurrencies, the CBN said the recent regulatory directive became necessary to protect the financial system and the generality of Nigerians, including the youth, from the risk inherent in crypto assets transactions, which had escalated in recent times, with dire consequences for the integrity of the financial system. It added that cryptocurrencies were largely speculative, anonymous and untraceable, and were being increasingly used for money laundering, terrorism financing, and other criminal activities. In entertainment news, singer Peter Okoye and human rights activist Kenechukwu Okeke have clashed over the reopening of the Lekki toll gate. The Lagos State Panel of Inquiry on Saturday, February 6th, gave the Lekki Concession Company, LCC, the go-ahead to repossess the toll gate that have been shut down since the October 20 gunshot incident. Activist Kenechukwu, who made the news last year when he sued Davido, Pastor Adeyemi, Aisha Yusufu, and others over their involvement in the NSAS protest, kicked against Peter Okoye's position to reopen the toll gates. In sports news, Tom Brady steered the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a comfortable 31-9 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs to extend his record for Super Bowl wins to 7. In his first season after a glittering 20-year spell with the New England Patriots, the evergreen quarterback helped Tampa Bay become the first team to play a Super Bowl in their own stadium.